I saw a headline flash by one of my screens an hour or so ago, and it was to do with gun control, or lack thereof, in the United States of America. And the headline said something about, it was an opinion piece. Gun control is arming white supremacy, and it may well be, in fact I'm sure it is to some extent, and even to a large extent I would say that's true in America. All right, so there's a problem, and a lack of gun control is also supporting Al-Shabaab in Somalia, and the other one over in Nigeria. A lack of gun control when it comes to guns being in the hands of bad guys is a problem. Okay, so that was the headline, and ordinarily I would react to that and say, yeah, get those guns out of the hands of those white supremacists, no problem with the logic there. But I think the article, and you could look it up yourself. I actually just tried to look for it. I couldn't find it. If you let an hour go by, if you do any work, let an hour go by, a news article from about an hour ago just is gone. But I do remember at the end of the headline, I didn't read the article, I don't need to. It was probably a really good article, actually, and I bet it held together logically and ethically and morally very well. And I probably wouldn't have had a problem with even one word of the argument that was put. All right. And I think the title of the article ended up with something like, the US must disarm, and I think it was, it was another gun control article. All right. Now, ordinarily, I would agree, because I was there by my radio during the Port Arthur massacre here in Australia, and as a consequence of that, we disarmed, got rid of all our sort of semi-automatics and automatics and all that sort of stuff, and that went really well, and we had quite a few mass murders before that, and we didn't have even one mass murder for the next 20 years or something. So, if it works here, why can't it work in America? And, I've held that opinion for a long time, and I still hold that opinion, that if you disarmed America of its assault weapons at least, you'd get a lot less mass murders in America. All right, so makes sense. Worked in Australia, why can't it work in America? And what the hell, we haven't got a Second Amendment like that, the right to bear arms and all that sort of stuff. So they don't need one either. Now, I've rather held that opinion for a long time myself, but watching events unfold in, of all places, Ethiopia recently, where the federal government invaded one of the states in the same country, and it's just utterly kind of they chopped the internet in that state, one state. So think Washington invading Texas, in a fictional movie. Except this happened for real in Ethiopia. Okay, you've got all the states, and they all chipped in, for a national armed forces. So that's like all the states of America chipping in for a national U.S. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Space Force now. All right. So Ethiopia did that, and this one state, whatever it's called, it doesn't matter what it's called for the purpose of this episode, but one of the states in Ethiopia, like all the other states, they chipped in for, you know, a number of aircraft for an air force, a number of all sorts of guns and everything for a national armed forces, and probably no ships for a navy because they're landlocked, this particular joint. All right, Ethiopia. Okay, so, and then the federal government used that army and air force to attack that one state. Okay, so this is like, Texas, for example, chipping in for the United States Army, Texas paying, $1 billion towards the US Army, and then the US Army, which, and controlled by Washington, by Joe Biden, or recently Donald Trump, goes and invades Texas with that army that Texas paid for, in part. All right, so odd stuff, isn't it? So that opinion piece that I mentioned, it said, look, the title suggested to me that they were suggesting that the US do in Australia and disarm the militia all around the United States. Now, I wouldn't have been able to see a fault in that logic, really, had I not watched what's been happening in Ethiopia recently. I would have said, I can't see the fault in that logic. Disarm. Gun control, lots of gun control in America. I would support that. I definitely support it in Australia. But now that I've watched this war recently, this civil war in Ethiopia, I'm thinking, oh, hang on. Oh, no, it would have been a better idea had that one state in Ethiopia not disarmed, just in case the federal government one day rose up and decided to attack them. They needed a state defense force. That state in Ethiopia needed a state defense force just in case the federal government of that same country attacked it. So by the same token, Texas probably needs its own state militia with lots and lots of guns sprinkled right through Texas so that, militia can be activated in very short order should Washington come and attack Texas. I think that's not required in Australia, because in Victoria, look, ignore that rubbish, people say, oh, coronavirus, there started to be friction between the states in Australia. It's not the same, because we have border closures and everything, and New South Wales and Victoria are not on the same team anymore. WA, Western Australia, is not on the same team as South Australia anymore, we're just like, we aren't as unified as we thought we were. Well, maybe not, but we're still a hell of a lot more unified than the states in America are, and definitely a lot more unified than the states in Ethiopia, and miles more unified than the states in the EU are. That's exaggerating, really, to say that we're anything like all those other joints. Anyway, so I would definitely suggest that it was a good idea for Australia to disarm its citizens. A lot of people would disagree with me on that. Of assault rifles, because we're not going to have Canberra invading our states anytime soon. That's unlikely. Very unlikely. To which you might say, well, same goes for America. What's the chances? Come on Washington launching, the US Army launching an attack on Texas. To which I'd say, well, it happened in Ethiopia. I'd say, yes, but America's not Ethiopia. To which I'd say, well, America's not Australia either. It's somewhere in between, isn't it? So if I suppose my recommendation would be for that one state in Ethiopia and all the other states in Ethiopia to have an absolute proper army, each. That's how ununified Ethiopia is. And I think Australia should have no such thing. So each state in Ethiopia should have a completely fully fledged army and air force. Don't need any boats. With They should have F-16s and F-18 Hornets and all that sort of stuff, and Apache helicopters and all that sort of stuff. Each state should have one of those in Ethiopia. And the federal government really should have nothing. No army at all, but there should be some sort of alliance where the different states all come together if some external, country comes and attacks Ethiopia. Now, Australia, we should just have a federal army. The opposite, and an Air Force and a Navy in Australia. And a Space Force, that'd be nice. And because we're different from Ethiopia. Our states are unified. Yeah. Even if you're the sort of person who gets on social media and says, oh no, I noticed a little bit of friction between the states during coronavirus and border closures in Australia, so we are just like Ethiopia. That's that way people speak on social media. They find one example and conflate it. Anyway, but America, well, I think they're in between, and I think the states should not disarm. I think that Second Amendment was there, exists for a reason. Even though I'm against, citizens having assault weapons and all that sort of stuff, and yet somehow each of the states in America, I think, still needs to be able to raise a militia should Washington come and attack it. Ridiculous, you might say. I would have said that too up until recently, but America hasn't been looking that unified lately. I think it's been halfway between us and Ethiopia. So I've softened my opinion on America's Second Amendment lately, and I can see the argument for the states in America still being able, one way or another, to raise state militias at short order if they need to. I can see the logic for that. Now, maybe assault weapons in the hands of nut jobs in their caravans is probably not a good idea. Still, in caravan parks or hotel rooms or mansions or whatever in America is probably, maybe they do need some gun control, but not as much as they need less gun control. They need to have more guns than Australia does. The states in America and Ethiopian states need even more guns than America does. And the various states in Europe need lots of guns too. And maybe over there, the central government, the EU if you like, they need no guns. Maybe in Ethiopia, the federal government needs no guns. Because look what they did recently. And if you think, that's Ethiopia. It's not going to happen in America. Well, I'm not so sure that America's so unlikely to implode. I think Australia's pretty good at the moment. There you go. That'll do. That's an episode right there.